we're leaving Vancouver. We're going through the Maple Leaf Lounge, and he just goes strutting right up to the older black lady at the counter there, and he just is like, "Migos, offset," and she's like, "I don't care. Give me your pass." So, so we get him inside. And yeah, he held court for 2.5 hours over at the taps, the beer taps there in the Maple Leaf Lounge, talking to anybody who was interested in listening to him, which, whether they were prepared to or not, they were meeting Ric Flair that day.
Welcome back, everyone, to a brand new episode of the Johnny Rogers Show. I'm very excited for my guest today. He is a multi-published photo and videographer and an international man of mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for my friend and yours, Gavin Fitzpatrick. Welcome to the show, man. You can keep that background if you want to keep it. It's all up to you.
Thanks, Johnny.
I'll see how long YouTube leaves it up for. We'll see if they flag it for something. But thanks for making the time to come on the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, it's been a while. I think we met back in it was 2019 at the Comedy Store
At
of
the
all
store,
places.
yeah.
Yeah. It was so cool to just be like, oh, sweet. Like, talk to somebody saying I'm from Canada, and you're like, oh, no way, cool.
Yeah, it's funny. There's a lot of Canadians lurking around the store and all the other comedy clubs around North America now. So it's cool to
Yeah.
see. It's cool
New
to see
York
us.
is filling up with some Toronto comics. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, and Austin's getting quite a few too now, right? So I mean, it's Austin's a growing scene, and it's getting really cool to see how many people are just like moving there and basing themselves out of there.
Yeah.
Um, my friend Jason Rouse, he's down there in Austin, and he's been there a while now, and he loves it. So
Yeah, he's trying to get
I've
me to come out there.
yeah,
I
I've
think
heard
Jason
nothing.
is the funnel.
Yeah, for everybody, like so many
Yeah.
people like coming to Austin through Jason, and it's cool because yeah, Jason's always really good at bringing people up with him, or like bringing people around too that he has a lot of faith in, or
Hmm.
wants to see succeed, which is always cool. So yeah, that's yeah, Austin's the place to be. But it's Canada is a good comedy scene too. It's growing. It's definitely thriving for a lot of people up here too. I know quite a few people making a decent career right now up here, so it's pretty good for everybody, I'd say.
Yeah.
If you got your nose to the grindstone, right? So
Yeah, thanks to the internet, man. Because like honestly, I think we're gonna see like Canadian entertainment for the longest time. Everyone knows this from here. Is you always had to go to the US and then live in the US forever and then hopefully build up from there. But now it's to the point where yes, you still can go to those markets, but like fly in and then bring some of that notoriety back to the city that you're based out of. Whether
mhm.
that's, Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, Edmonton, like Ottawa now is like building up a little bit of a scene. That's where I am. And it's cool to see like even Andrew Packer, who was just on Kill Tony, comes back to Toronto and he's shooting like a late night style concept show and trying like he's coming back to Toronto is the point, right? He's doing this kind of where he goes to New York and then he goes to Austin and then he comes back to Toronto, this little triangle. But I think if more comics can do that, you can actually build somewhat of a star system within Canada because much like Jason Rouse, I think one of the main reasons why he wants to do that for so many other young comics is because people did that for him. And
Mhm.
so the more people that, get a big audience from doing these American shows and then put people on that they like in Canada so that they get discovered through that sort of trickle down effect, the better the industry is going to be, right? You're going to have like bigger stars staying and living in Canada.
Yeah, and like it's just so spread out touring in Canada. Like
Yeah, that's the
it's so
problem, right?
hard to tour.
Yeah, yeah.
Like with bands, anybody that has to go on the road to do a show, like outside of your city, that you don't want to oversaturate yourself in your hometown, of course, right? But you know, you got to go like 7 to 12 hour drives just to get to the gig, and then
Yeah.
you turn right around and go back 6 hours to another gig, and then finally get home, and then go to the Monday to Friday day job, right? So,
Yeah. We're 6 hours
yeah,
in the US, you've gone through three cities. Like,
I mean, yeah, like
yeah, yeah.
just in Southern California alone, a 6 hour drive, like that's crazy. It's like, well, you went somewhere and back.
Yeah, yeah.
and you hung out. Like I went to San Diego for dinner, and then I came back.
Yeah,
Like it's or you could drive to Vegas almost in that time from LA.
it's
So
crazy.
yeah, it's and they have the numbers in America. That's the other thing. We just don't have the population, but
Yeah.
the fans that we do get up here that love the artists that they like, they're rabid. Like
Oh
uh
yeah.
look at what Danger Cats is doing.
Oh
Like
yeah. It's
those
great to see
like
what they're building, like sort of this natural base, you know?
mhm. Yeah, those boys, like, man, I'm so proud of them. I got to see their debut show in Vegas
Nice.
With Holtzman.
Holzman's
That
great. I asked Holzman to be on my podcast and I was shocked that he was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, he's awesome.
So
Like I
great.
love
Yeah.
love Holtzman, but not a single walkout there, so there wasn't any viral
Uh,
moments from that show. I think the Vegas crowd knew what they were getting with Holtzman, and
uh,
they were thoroughly impressed with those three Canadian boys as well. So it's good to see them doing what they're doing in the States right now. So like shout out to Brett and all the
yeah.
boys there,
And
Sam and Uncle
Sam's
Hack.
character, yeah, is crazy.
Yeah,
Like I
he's
remember seeing Sam Walker for the first time at Yuck Yucks in Toronto, and I was just like, well, "Who is this guy? Like, what the?" I got another Rouse byproduct that was Jason
yeah.
Rouse's love letter that he left in Canada.
Oh, dude, I absolutely adore Sam. Like ever since Jason introduced me to him, uh, like I get to work with a lot of celebs all the time with my day job and stuff, and I don't get starstruck a lot, but like seeing Sam like online and all his material, and then like the day I met him, I was like, whoa, this is Sam Walker. That's
Yeah,
cool, man. Like
yeah, yeah.
but yeah, like those guys, they're great. And I mean, like just Sam, what a guy. Like I'm down in Vegas working at Encore. We have David Guetta playing.
Wow.
I get the boys in, right? So I get Brett and his mom's on the tour with them too,
Oh,
and
that's
Uncle
great.
Hack and Sam. And they walked up to Encore Beach Club and Sam's got his backpack and he's wearing jeans. And like Encore's a beach, it's a pool club, it's a beach club. So the
Yeah.
dress code is like you gotta have like shorts on or something. Like you can't be wearing your jeans while you're walking in there. And Sam's got his khakis. He's got the big fanny pack with the janitor key ring on there,
Yeah.
and the khaki combat boots. And he's going through the like security check. They're like, you have shorts, right? He's like, oh yeah, daddy, don't worry, I'm covered. And Sam goes and changes, and he comes out of the bathroom with backpack over his shoulders, still wearing the fanny pack with the janitor key ring and the khaki combat boots. But only other thing he was wearing was his sunglasses and his American flag thong, and he got more attention than David Guetta.
No doubt. Yeah,
Dude, like
yeah.
that, and then like it was funny too, because just as they were leaving, Sam's like sitting in the corner and he's putting his pants on, and one of the like security guys is like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, here we go!" Like he's getting kicked out, dress code violation. The
Yeah,
guy's like,
yeah.
"Dude, everyone loves what you're doing here, man. Like everyone loves this. Like, can you stay? Well, what do you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
drink?" And
That's so funny. Vegas is the place too for
yeah,
that kind of chaos where it's just so warmly accepted. Where I'm
hmm
sure Sam is used to people being like completely offended by doing that. So funny.
and it's Memorial Day weekend, so
Oh
it's like
yeah, so it's
super
even
patriotic
yeah,
for
yeah,
them.
it's
So
turned
like
up to 11 in America. Yeah.
they're just like loving that he's like walking around in this American flag like thong and he's
Yeah.
a Canadian. They're like,
Yeah.
this doesn't make sense. And he's like, I'm from Alberta. It's a lot more like America than you would think. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
love
would
that
love to
guy.
see a show, like a talk show of him interviewing like people, but them not knowing what his character is. You don't give them any context going into it and just let him interview them blind as that character. That would make
A-
for some great TV.
And it would be great too because a lot of them would have this ignorant like prejudgment of him as
Oh
like, oh
yeah.
well, he's just gonna be some like weird creepy guy with not a lot to say. And he's very educated on his points that he agrees and disagrees with. So he would definitely be a force to be reckoned with if he was on the Maury timetable of daytime television.
Yeah.
I would pay to watch that on a subscription service for sure. So yeah, let's see who will sign him up for it
Let's
though.
get it back. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We become
that'll
the
be my
masterminds.
Kickstarter. That'll be my
Yeah,
Kickstarter. Yeah.
yeah,
Hey, Dragons,
yeah.
have I got a pitch for you?
Have I
So
got a man that you need to meet?
yeah,
So where are you based out of right now?
I'm in Edmonton, Alberta, as
You in
always.
Edmonton? Okay, nice,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. But I fly out of here a lot. It's nice and easy to get down to LA, nice and easy to get down to Vegas, and
Yeah.
yeah,
How did you get started into like photographer, videographer business? What was sort of your start in that industry? And also maybe you can elaborate on like what was your first sort of big break that made you feel like, oh, I could actually pursue something along these lines.
oh well, I had a weird like journey, I guess you could say. Like I went to Nate for radio television arts. I was planning on being a radio DJ. That was like what I wanted to do from like I wanted to do one of two things: be a radio DJ or be in a band. So that
Nice.
was it. And that was
Yeah, yeah.
because of Airheads. I saw Airheads when I was a kid and it ruined me forever. I was like, those look like fun jobs. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
being in a rock, yeah, it sucks that they have to eat 7-Eleven burritos, but like, I think 7-Eleven burritos are cool, especially when you're like 11.
Yeah.
Um, so got into radio television arts, was pretty decent course there, really good. Uh, Interesting classmate I had, which I can touch on in a bit here, but went to Vancouver Film School for a bit after that. Vancouver, obviously super expensive even back then. So I came back in the summer and I got a job at a venue here, the Starlight Room. And I got the shittiest job there. It was just something to pay the bills, but I got free drinks and I got free concert tickets. So
Hell yeah. That's all
that
you
to
can
me
ask
is
for.
like a summer as like a summer job. It's like, okay, I can get like a decent paying thing in the day and then come and do this like thing at night, and at least I don't have to pay for my entertainment.
Yeah.
So it was a members only club. It's for their liquor license laws back then for that venue, and you had to have a membership card to get into any show there. So I used to have to walk the line and sell membership cards for $5, which,
That,
the shittiest job. Like nobody
yeah,
likes to do
yeah,
it, but like
yeah.
I'd show up, and the owner of the venue, who was also a big concert promoter, independent concert promoter out here in Alberta, was like, "Hey, you show up for this job like all the time. You do it, and like we never have to worry about the money. It's always like bang on. Like, I got another job for you. Like, do you want to come and work on a show, like a real show?" I was like, "Yeah, fuck yeah, I do." So I ended up working on a Motorhead concert,
Oh, sick.
and my job for the day was basically just hanging out with Lemmy.
That's fucking awesome.
So it was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm gonna go and take him to pawn shops and antique stores and strip clubs.
What an upgrade.
Like, yeah. So that, and
You see
then
kids just keep showing up every day.
and after that, I ended up getting hooked up with one of the record label reps here in town. So I worked at Universal Music Group pretty soon after, which was really cool. I was, early 20s working for a record label. I'd get like all the new releases before they came out. I'd have a trunk full of CDs in my car for promo giveaways all the
Crazy.
time. So like it was always fun, like getting all this music stuff and working with the bands, doing their pressers and stuff with them. So that gave me like a really cool like insight of like how that side of the industry works. And then I'd be working on the concert side, the live production side. Then one day, all of us at Universal Music, 50% of the woke up to pink slips.
Oh,
50% of the company got laid off in one fell swoop one morning. So I was one of them because I was one of the newest people in the door. I'm going to be one of the first out the door. And really opened up the door for me working in live production, and those concerts with metal bands and some of the hip hop shows ended up turning into corporate gigs with comedians. So then that's how I really got into the comedy side. And how I met Jason was a funny story. I met him through some guys that I grew up with in Edmonton, who live in LA. So they met Jason through the rock scene, metal scene in LA, and around the whiskey and the rainbow. And Jason moved in with them. So that's how when I'd visit in LA, I'd always be hanging out at their house. And then I met
Uh,
this guy and I was like, hey, I remember you. You were on that TV show Buzz, weren't you? So, and if anybody like knows anything about, Canada and, our comedy network TV, Buzz was a classic, man. That show was great. Like, I miss
we had
that
some
show.
real programming on back in the day, and
Yeah.
it just all Bell came in and bought everybody out and just
Hmm.
shut it all down. It's so
Yeah.
sad.
Yeah. Like comedy now is like such a great spotlight for Canadian comedians that were on the rise.
Yeah.
Like, and it sucks too, because like nobody really looks into getting the factor grants like they used to
Hmm.
anymore for producing Canadian content on the independent level. And I think that more people really need to, but I think they made it harder for comedians too now. I think they're really pushing on the music side of things.
Well, I think with Cask, like that was spearheaded by Sandra Battellini early on, the Canadian Association for Stand-Up Comedy. They're really like they just partnered with Unifor, which is like a bigger union sort of branch, to help advocate more for like comedians in Canada. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
in part of that will hopefully be like making grants a lot more easier to apply for or more accessible for some people. Because I think the whole process, like I had a buddy, Anto Chan, who he talked about it on the podcast. He went through the whole process of applying for a grant, and year after year, he would put down like stand-up comedy as the art form. And they were
Mm-hmm.
like, hey, if you just change this to like poetry or something else, it'll probably get approved.
Songwriter. Yeah.
Yeah,
If
yeah,
you
it'll
like,
probably get approved. But he was like, no, like I want to keep doing it it just kept getting rejected. And then finally, it was like he did like a mix of like it'll be a show that he's producing that's like stand-up comedy, music, and like another thing, poetry probably. And it's
mhm.
supposed to be like a multicultural like experience, and he needs the grant for that. And then they approved it. But
Yeah.
I'm like, man, the process that he had to go through just to get funding to put something like this on was crazy. Like no comic I know would go through all that. Like
It's,
most of them I know would
yeah.
never even attempt to figure out where to start, you know?
And the money's there.
Yeah, that's what I
It's
mean.
there,
Like,
right? Like there's so many art foundations that have money to fund you to put on your shows. Like the Fringe Festival in Edmonton has an independent show lottery. You pay into it, and whether you win or not, if you win, you get $8,000 towards your budget of your show to produce your show. You get to take 100% of your gate, which is a
wow,
great deal.
that's an amazing
Uh,
deal.
but if you don't win, you get your money back.
Mm,
So that's like a really cool like trade-off. It's like, oh, well, I don't have, really anything to lose other than filling out some paperwork. And there's been more stand-up comedians kind of figuring out how to get on the Fringe in Edmonton now, which is kind of cool by doing
yeah,
like their 45 to an hour long show.
yeah,
They're labeling it as a one-man show, which
yeah.
is really what it is when you think about it too. It is a one-man show when like you do get up and do an hour's worth of material. So
Yeah, and if
you,
you're the only person on that show, then
yeah,
yeah, one man.
yeah. So you label it as that maybe, and you can still withhold that integrity of saying like I'm a comedian, right? But it's like
Yes, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
doing a show by myself. Like I don't
Yeah.
have a support. I have a technical staff, but I don't have anything other than what's here. So
And for a lot of comics that maybe aren't getting the attention from clubs or festivals, these fringe festivals are like amazing opportunities to actually seek, hey, can I do an hour? Like, can
mhm.
I and write a whole hour just to do at this show and try it and actually flush out whether or not because it's such an interesting thing in comedy. Like you start off doing like some shows 3 minutes, but like 5 to 7 minutes, and you're working that 5 to 7 forever. And then eventually someone's like, hey, do you want to do 10 minutes? And then you do
Mhm.
10 minutes. And then someone's like, hey, do you want to do 15? And you do 15. And maybe you get up to 30 minutes, depending on how much someone trusts you.
Mhm.
But very rarely does someone say, hey, do you want to do an hour? Like,
Yeah.
how do you practice then for that jump of 30 minutes to then 45 minutes or an hour? other than these festival shows, or funding it yourself and
Mhm.
trying, because it takes a lot, I think, for a club to trust a person enough to be able to be like, yeah, you can do the weekend. And I've seen your 20 minutes, so I guess the 45 is also going to be good. Like it's such a risk when you really think about it.
It is, and like the thing too that you could use it as an opportunity to show one of these bigger companies, like, hey, like I do have potential to do an hour special like that you're trying to shop. What better way to shop it than with an actual like video with
Yeah.
a stage production quality behind you and everything? Like you could use that $8,000 for a lot of video production rentals for, a couple days and
Yeah.
basically put out, your 40 to 100, 40 to an hour minute special and even shop that alone. And what did it cost you? Nothing. And you're
Yeah.
making the gate. Like you get to make the gate back too. So that's
Making the gate
uh
is crazy. Yeah.
yeah, so and that's what's really cool about it too is like, and if your show does really well, they hold you over.
Mm.
So instead of getting like those 4 shows that you're guaranteed, now you're doing, 12. So that's a big opportunity to step up your game too. And
Yeah.
uh, I think like more people really need to look into the Fringe in Edmonton because it is an outlet that just hasn't been tapped into by a lot of people. Few people have. Like I know I was trying to get a comedian in right before the pandemic hit, and then of course that hit, so we couldn't do anything for
Yeah.
at least 2 years. But as soon as everything was rolling, they were like, "Hey, do you guys want to do the show that you were planning on doing?" It's like we can't. Like he's already put out the material. It's
Yeah.
out
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
internet now.
It's
Like there's
burned. Yeah.
like everything that he was doing for that show's burned, and he doesn't have any new material ready for that long of a time. So
Ugh.
it's
Yeah, that's a bummer.
unfortunate, but it
That's a
is.
bummer too, is like because the internet can almost breed this like weird level of impatience with art where people want to keep up with what everyone else is putting out. So they might release stuff before the egg is fully cooked, Like they're just okay, that bit looks good enough on this video, throw it out. And then opportunities like that where they could have maybe had that set even filmed even better in a better environment and then had this opportunity, it's kind of wasted on impatience.
Yeah. And the one thing I want to say to anybody, if you're filming your material, if you have a chance to record from the board and you're sending these videos out, record it from the board. Please, please, please. As like a video editor who like
Yeah.
gets to like cut people's material, like sometimes I'm like, oh, this is so rough. I wish that they had audio from the board right now
So
because
how would you get audio from the board? Like let's say you're doing a random club night and you set up your phone to film.
so you set up your phone to film. You can buy like a separate field recorder.
Okay.
Like I use the Zoom H6 for any time I film a comedian. I just get the house tech to plug that into their externals, and it's just ready to go. Listen on my
Oh.
headphones, but I still film off my camera's microphone too. So,
So
but
you
it
can line it up, of
so I
course.
can line them up
Right.
together. Yeah, but also to get the audience like reaction
Yeah.
like rolls as well. So,
Yeah, because
uh,
the audio needs to be so clean for that.
that
Yeah.
that's so lacking in so many videos that I see. I'm just like, oh man, like just get like the wireless mic quick. Like,
You got to start bullying people in the comment section. Make
nah,
force them into it.
nah. They like I'll just show them videos of like people who have, and then it's like, okay, so see, they spent $600 on a few things, and
Yeah,
now
spot
look
the
at the
difference.
quality of
Yeah.
their yeah. So, and I love that it's shifted now too, where a lot of people are putting their crowd work out so that they
Hmm.
don't burn their material for their specials and stuff.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that
I,
shows more of a person's personality too. Like how are they responding to
mhm.
moments of interruption, right?
Yeah. No, I did a bunch of Matt Rife shows here on
Oh,
his
cool.
tour, working with like my regular job with Live Nation. And it was really cool seeing, how much of the show that they film isn't what he's saying on stage. They're filming the crowd
Mm.
more than anything. So
Interesting.
they're looking for those reactions, they're looking for those moments that they can put out on the
Yeah.
reels to promote asses in the seats.
Yep.
He had 5 sold out shows in Edmonton. you know, 3 in Calgary. Like,
Crazy.
you know, the guy's on fire right now too. But
Yeah.
like, it just goes to, and his material is great.
Yeah, that's the
Uh,
thing is people that were shitting on him early didn't realize that he had already been a comic for like 12 years.
you know, he's well rounded.
Like that's not a 15 or 20-year-old comic in the scene to that level of perfection, but 12
Mhm.
years is no joke. Like if someone's been doing comedy consistently for 12 years, like they're proficient at what they do.
Mhm.
And so going to a show, it's gonna be a good show. Even if he's just doing bits, I would trust those bits over, he had been doing it for a year and then all of this stuff happened for him. I'd be like, give the show a minute, let it
Yeah,
develop.
and super nice guy. Like
Oh, I'm
such,
sure.
he's
Yeah,
so
yeah.
rad. Like for somebody who is such a meteoric rise, you know, no ego with him. It's really cool to see. Most of the people working on the crew were his friends from back
That's
home,
great.
and it's because he wanted to show them the world with him, and he was like,
It's
also like,
awesome.
I get to hang out with my friends. Like
Yeah,
it's like
what more could you ask for? I would be trying
it's
to
a
find stuff for my
yeah,
friends to
like
do.
it's a permanent vacation
Yeah,
basically,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like, you know, every night they were throwing the football outside the tour bus.
Sick. Yeah.
Like, you know, so that's one way that, you know, you can stay grounded because you have to on the road. Like the
Yeah.
road is a hard time too. Like
And you
we've
want to
heard
be surrounded by people that knew you when you were not successful at all. Because
mm-hmm.
like at least with Matt, I think it happened and Steve Simone said this too when he was on the podcast that the best way to sort of gain fame is in stages instead
Yeah.
of it just happening. Like going from 0 to 100 is insane. Like and Matt, I think he was on Wild and Out, so he probably had like a little bit of like clout or whatever from that with people
Mm-hmm.
that knew the show. And I bet he was getting recognized, but it's on like a smaller scale. And then for this virality to happen, it's all through his own hard work. So, you almost can't be anything but humble in that situation where you're just like, okay, I need to realize that like this is a gift of a moment right now. Yes, I worked hard, but like I'm also not going to let it get to my head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my friend Zach is his tour manager right now, and like he's saying it's one of the best tours he's ever been on.
That's
Just
great.
because it's so easy dealing with everybody who's just very happy to be there. Like
Yeah.
everyone's happy to be there, which is rare. You know, there's a lot of people that take like touring for granted, or being in the position to be touring at certain
Hmm.
levels for granted. And I get it. It does get lonely on the road, but you know, that is what we're getting
What you
paid
signed
for.
up for.
You know, like
I
we're
never
getting
got it.
paid
It's
for
like if
this.
it's lonely for you, then go back home to your
And
family, dude.
like,
Like
you know, I don't want to like shit on anybody else's job, but like I'll tell you this, like the worst day I've ever had working in the live entertainment industry is still better than the best day I ever had working behind a desk in a 9 to 5.
1,000%.
Like,
1,000%. That's the attitude. Yeah,
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
I've had to eat some shit some days, but like at least it's like, yeah, you know what?
Yeah. I work in a pretty
Could be
cushy job
worse.
too, and when people complain, I'm just like, could be worse. You could be on a roof. You could be on a
Yeah,
roof right now, chipping off the shingles and in 30, 40-degree weather. Like
yeah,
there's AC on in here. Like, why are you
yeah.
complaining?
There's AC. Like we're getting a
Like,
catered meal.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, you know, I don't think any of us have like a day rate under $300 a
Crazy.
day, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We're all getting per diems on top of our day rates too. So, and we're getting catering, so you just pocket that money.
Yeah,
Uh, and guys still complain. It's like
yeah.
I get it, but it's like, dude, like you
Yeah,
signed up
yeah.
for this. Like,
It's almost like we just some people just like will always find a reason. I don't know, you know what I
mhm.
mean? Like there's just no matter what, there's always like a yeah, but it could be this.
Yeah, it's like, oh, but I could have been on tour with so and
Yeah.
so. I could have been on the Taylor Swift tour. I'm like, well, guess what? You're not, because Taylor Swift hired the Taylor Swifts of
Yeah,
everybody in their field. So you
100%.
probably were like near the bottom of the call list, bro. If you're
You're the
out in this
Ja
gig, you're,
Rule of
you
the
know,
field.
yeah, like it's, you know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you
That's
know,
great.
it's a fun job, man. Like,
Yeah.
like I said, I got to meet so many people, and got so many like fun stories. Like a lot of them I can't tell, but some of them I can,
NDAs
and
and
they're
stuff.
great. Not even NDAs, just like that's
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
just
All right.
between that's just like a funny thing that happened. But like I had to sign a bunch of NDAs with David Copperfield about anything I
Really?
saw backstage.
Because it's not real magic.
Well,
No.
he's an illusionist, right? He's an
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
illusionist.
yeah,
He's not a
yeah, yeah.
magician. He's
I'm
an
an
illusionist.
illusionist. It's like
Yeah.
wrestling.
So,
It's not sport, it's entertainment.
oh well, wrestling that's like been a huge part of my
Yeah,
life too.
yeah.
With like entertainment, I've put on I don't know how many wrestling shows like
Oh,
over the
sick.
years, but like wrestling and comedy like goes hand in hand.
Hand in hand. It's
Uh,
amazing that I trained to be a wrestler when I was 18. I was like thought that that's what I was gonna do, and then getting my ass actually handed to me and being 18 years old with back pain, I was like, oh, I can't do this.
well, and
I'm
like back
crazy.
then, they were still trying to protect the business a bit,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
like it was like, oh, okay, well, do we want to let him in yet? Well, I'll show him something or two, brother. Let me give him
yeah,
a couple
yeah, yeah.
potatoes,
Let's see
like
if he can handle it.
yeah,
Doing
like I
50 front bumps. Jesus Christ.
yeah, like and being in Alberta too, like
Oh
we have
yeah, it's a
such a
big scene for wrestling.
historied like wrestling scene here with
Yeah.
Stu Hart, the Stampede Wrestling like era, and then of course Brett, Owen, Davey, Dynamite, Jim. Like it was crazy out here for wrestling, but
Yeah.
like you meet a lot of weird characters in a green room in a comedy club, but you meet a lot more in a wrestling locker room. Like, oh man, like there are
Yeah, yeah.
some dudes that are just, it's like, brother, you worked yourself into a shoot.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
which,
yeah.
I don't know if you know that. Have you know
Yeah.
that
I'm
saying,
I'm
but
heavy
yeah,
on the lingo. Yeah, I'm all good.
yeah. Any of the listeners, like a shoot is real life and a work is fake. And sometimes the the
The
work
worlds
becomes
blend.
the
Yeah,
shoot.
yeah.
Yeah. Like uh Ric Flair is a guy that happened to. I most belligerent human being I've ever met in my life.
Oh my God, yeah. That seeing
Yeah.
that Kill Tony when he was on there, I was like, oh my God, dude, like it's not that serious. Like fucking relax.
Yeah,
Like he
I can't
walked
do
off the
this. I
show.
can't do this. I can't
Yeah.
make fun of people's disabilities. I can't do
You're
this.
like,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah, it's
What
like
the fuck, dude?
so I did a couple shows with Rick here in Western Canada. We did a show in Vancouver and we did a show in Edmonton, and Rick was hot shit in this time frame because the Ric Flair drip song had just come out like
Okay.
within a couple weeks. So it's everywhere, right? And Rick lives in Atlanta. So he was probably like flexing this on like every black
His
person he meets. Like,
his
hey,
skin tone, that makes sense.
yeah,
Now that you
hey,
said that.
Migos, Offset, Ric Flair drip. That song's about me. Woo!
Yeah.
Everybody he met. So like we're leaving Vancouver, we're going through the Maple Leaf Lounge, and he just goes strutting right up to the older black lady at the counter there. And he just is like, Migos, Offset. And she's like, I don't care. Give me your pass. So, so we get him inside. And yeah, he held court for 2.5 hours over at the taps, the beer taps there in the Maple Leaf Lounge, talking to anybody who was interested in listening to him, which whether they were prepared to or not, they were meeting Ric Flair that day. So that was like an interesting time. And then we got to Edmonton and we had a VIP meet and greet show, like pre dinner, at this nice steakhouse in Edmonton. And, these people paid good money to like
Yeah.
listen to Ric Flair's stories. And it's cool because it's not just Rick, we have Jimmy Hart there.
Oh,
Jimmy
okay,
Hart,
cool.
consummate professional, nothing but an absolute gentleman too. And Rick won't let anybody order their dinner because he wants to order the fourth round of drinks, and we're like cutting down to like maybe 45 minutes to eat, get him out of there and get him to the actual show that sold out at the Jubilee Auditorium.
Yeah.
you know 3,200 people just waiting for him, right?
Sure,
So,
yeah, yeah.
and Jimmy as well. So that was the worst part, is like we couldn't just have Jimmy go down by himself and start the
Right.
show. Yeah, Rick was just so belligerent that night, and we got him on stage, thankfully. did a great interview with Jimmy for the whole 90 minutes that we had him up there. Soon as he got off stage, he's like, "Yeah, I'm not signing nothing. I'm out of here," and he just left. And Jimmy goes out, makes $17,000 in merch sales by like
No
doing video,
doubt.
selling 8x10, signing
Probably
people's
walked away
action
with
figures.
garbage bags of
He was
cash.
taking cash like out by,
Oh
and like it was
man.
funny because he wasn't selling actual merchandise.
Yeah.
So the venue couldn't collect a 25% fee like they always do, which is,
Okay.
another thing that we have to worry about in touring. Um, so they're like losing their minds that he's making all this money and they're not making a penny off of it because
Yeah,
he's not
yeah.
actually selling anything.
They're just giving
Uh,
him cash for
and
signatures.
Jimmy Hart is like
What
cutting
a
like,
fucking G.
he was
Uh,
like taking photos of people's babies. He
wow.
was doing voicemail greetings.
That's
He
so great.
he was doing like people's business shout outs, like because people be like, "Hey Jimmy, I got a outhouse company, porta
Yeah.
potty rental company. Can you do a shout out for like my video, like for our Instagram?" And he's like, "Oh
Yeah.
hell yeah, I can do that for $500."
Yeah, yeah. He's like $500 and you
Yeah.
got it.
He's like, "Hey, it's Jimmy Hart, the mouth of the South, and if you need to take a shit, well, I got a number that's a hit. All right." Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. One take,
yeah.
two, and you're out.
And
Yeah.
everything he did was one take. You give him all the
Yeah.
info, he was done. Like, I was driving with him.
What a
He did a
professional.
radio interview. He's just like, "Okay, and it's on April 28th, 29th. All right. Okay, okay. Tell me when you're ready. Hi, everybody." And like, just cuts into
Wow.
character, finishes off with them, and then jumps right back into the story he was telling me about Bret Hart.
That's
And I was
crazy.
like, "Holy shit. Like, this guy is like killer memory." And like, what a, like, what a career this guy had before he even got big in wrestling. Like, he was on
Yeah.
American Bandstand with Dick Clark. He was in the house band.
Crazy.
Like, so that was pretty cool, like seeing that. And like, dude, like you name somebody, I've probably met them. Like,
No,
and
that's great.
Andy from like Firefest, that was a fun time. I booked that
Oh,
at
no
a
way.
nightclub
I
I was
just saw
working at.
him on there's a game show called Anonymous and he's on
Yeah.
that show and that's like his whole thing on the show, which is so funny.
So my friend Eric
Yeah.
in LA has a clothing line called Meth Syndicate. A lot of the LA comedians wear his stuff, just like really ridiculous, like parody t-shirts and like
Great.
usually stuff based around like fast food chain restaurants like Applebee's a lot. He makes a lot of Applebee's related material.
Nice.
But he put out a shirt with just the screen cap from the Firefest of Andy's face and the closed captions that said, "And I went to his office fully prepared to suck his dick." Uh, so I was working in a nightclub here in town, and every third Thursday of the month, we did these VIP Thursday celebrity nights, and it would be someone from The Bachelor or like Survivor or Big Brother Canada, like, name your like typical
Yeah, yeah.
reality show star. And we got the offer to book Andy from Firefest, and I was like, "We're booking this. This show's amazing." And the
Yeah.
doc had just come out,
Yeah.
so everybody was like, "I don't know who he is." It's like, "Go watch this on Netflix tonight and then tell me like that you don't think that this guy's worth booking."
Yeah.
And they didn't know I had already booked them because
Like
out of
it's
my
already
own
done.
guilty pleasure, like I had booked them.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I owned that shirt. I bought that shirt as soon
That's
as I
so
could
funny.
because, being in the industry, that movie was like the whatnot. It was the Geneva Conventions of putting on a concert.
100%.
Like,
100%. You like just
don't
whatever
do
they
this.
do the
Don't do
opposite.
this. Yeah, don't do
Yeah.
this. Don't do this. And we did everything we weren't supposed to.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
uh, just as an event worker, I had to like meet this guy, and I wore the shirt to the event. Like, I'm like, this is gonna go one of two ways. He's either gonna hate it or he's gonna love it. Thankfully, he loved it.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
it was great too because the picture that I have of him, like as my profile picture on Zoom here, is like he took that photo. He had his
That's
boyfriend
great.
boyfriend take that photo for me. I was like, that's so funny, like that he loved it that much. And he's like, "Does your friend have any more?" I was like, "Yeah, he probably did have a lot of them made, but fuck, he made a ton of money off them. I don't know if I should tell you how many he
Yeah, yeah,
sold."
yeah. Because it's like he might be getting a letter in the mail.
Yeah, yeah. And Eric was just like immediate on it. As soon as I texted it to him, he like had it posted on the Meth Syndicate with the location tag as Suck
So
Creek.
funny.
Like,
That's great.
you know,
Suck Creek.
yeah.
Man, on this podcast, I always ask the guests for one word. Did you have a word that came to mind when I was asking you that?
Oh, yeah. Intriguing.
Intriguing. Nice. What
Yeah.
is it about intriguing that brought, I was gonna say intrigued you?
Well, it's just when I meet people like for the first time and they're like, well, what do you do for a living? I'm like, it's a long story. So it's not just two bases. So then, I usually give them enough info that they're like, what the hell? Like, this is what you do for a living? And it's like, yeah, but I liked the sense of intrigue. I like that because it makes you want to find out more about people or things or how things work. So,
Yeah,
yeah, that's my word.
I like that. And I like the how do I say it? The intent on being intriguing, because like I've thought about that too, about how the less information you share, the more intriguing or sort of mysterious you are to someone else. And that to me is like everything about being in the world of entertainment. Is like the people that I was always the most fascinated with, I find, were the people that I knew the least about, but I
Hmm.
knew like one or two things about them that I'm like, man, I really want to like get to know this person. And you wouldn't have that feeling if that person just overshared. If they told you everything about themselves constantly, that it breaks that fine line of just becoming annoying, of just like, oh, I know everything about this guy and I didn't even want to,
What, like when they post pictures of themselves crying when their daughter goes to college?
Oh my God, yes. Bert.
Just a little too much, Bert. Come on, like just
Yeah, Bert, you're a little bit of an oversharer.
yeah, and it's
Uh,
sometimes a not genuine oversharing. It's like,
yeah, yeah. It's
hey,
the setting up the camera. Okay, here we go.
yeah. I think the funniest thing I heard another comedian say, I think it was someone on Legion of Skanks, is like, how many pictures do you think he took before he settled on that one?
Yeah, dead ass. That sounds like something Jay would say.
Yeah, yeah, Jerry or Ari or yeah,
Yeah.
but
I got
yeah,
to work with those guys a little bit, which was cool. I had reached out to Lewis about like their YouTube page and if they needed help like optimizing that stuff. And so we had a big Zoom call and I helped them with their like YouTube pushing of I ended up helping them with their 30 minutes with comedy specials that they released and helping them sort of optimize the YouTube videos for when that came out. So it's cool how like big but small the comedy world is.
mhm. Well, like I somebody that is so ingrained in almost every major podcast that I definitely want to give a shout out to right now is my buddy Ted Munn's Mosaics. That guy's made mosaics for everyone's podcast studio,
Crazy.
like and like tremendous work. And it was cool seeing him down at Skankfest, like hanging out with everybody. And I was like, man, like he's literally made the sign for everybody that he's got a photo with. Like that's so cool. Like
That's sick. I haven't heard of him before. Ted Mosaics?
Ted Munn's,
Ted Munns.
yeah, TEDMUNZ, because we're in Canada.
Yeah,
Mosaics. Yeah, no, he does some solid work. He's gonna make a sign up for me here too for
cool.
one of the businesses here. But
Nice. I
yeah,
might
like
check it out.
that was like my insight to like the whole Skankfest weekend in Las Vegas was
I
watching
want
all
to
his.
go to that, man, at least once because it looks
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and I'm always like around Vegas just before it. So I think the next time, like next year, I think I'm gonna
Stay
like
a little longer.
stay a little longer just so that I can
Yeah.
like, because I'm down there while the summer's hot when the pool clubs are open and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, they usually close up in September there, so and that's right around Skankfest.
Mhm.
So and yeah, no, I would love to go to that one. But yeah, I definitely want to go to Austin and check out the mothership and Vulcan and all the
Same.
cool venues down there. Sunset Strip seems to be doing really well too. Like everyone's just getting work down there right now.
Yeah.
So it's
We should
really
plan.
cool.
Like we should if you're gonna go down at a certain time, let me know. Cause then because I really want to go too. It'd be a lot easier to split an Airbnb with someone. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like,
Oh hell yeah.
yeah,
No, and
yeah. And we
I
both have the
definitely.
same interest in mind of like going to those same places, you know, so it's a lot easier.
Oh, and there's just so much to do in Austin. Like Austin is like I've been to Austin before, and it's a really cool city. Like before I went, obviously pre-pandemic, but it's like Portland.
Mm,
It's like the Portland of Texas almost.
okay.
I get some Vancouverish vibes, but there's like still like that little like flavor of Alberta redneck that
Right.
like really
Okay.
makes me feel at home. I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
cool, yeah. Like I smell somebody smoking brisket. Like no,
Yeah.
but hey, they get to carry guns down here. I don't.
Yeah.
That's way more redneck than I could ever do in
Y-
Alberta. Fuck.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can carry them. We just can't get caught carrying
We're
them.
just rednecks without guns in Alberta.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got them. We
Yeah,
just, like I
Just
said,
not
yeah,
open carry.
yeah. It's just not an open pistol carry like
Yeah.
province or
So
anything.
crazy to see.
If it
Um,
was, who,
be a lot different of a place.
yeah.
Um, Gavin, there's a question that I always ask my guests towards the end of the podcast too, and if you could, I want you to imagine yourself at 15 years old. I'm going to rephrase this. Imagine yourself at 15 years old. The reason why I say that is because it's easier to put yourself in where you were at that time and who you were at that time, rather than giving advice to someone now that's young. I want you to give advice to yourself at 15. Like the phone rings and it's you now on the other end. What do you tell your 15-year-old self?
Don't freak out. It's me. Uh, Basically just feel like, hey man, like you're gonna do some cool things. I wouldn't want to spoil it.
Hmm.
But it's like there's a few things that I would just change on the way up. But other than that, like I don't know if I would change much, dude. Like I've had a good run. I've had a pretty good run, and like
I love
I
those
still got
answers.
a lot more to do. So yeah, it's that's a tough one, but yeah, I don't think I would change anything really because it was a process, and that's kind of what got me here, and I'm kind of glad of uh what I've accomplished. So
Yeah,
yeah, dude,
everything you went through brought you to this point that you're at and you're happy with that,
exactly.
then
Like
yeah, what
and
advice
like
could you give?
so much of it just happened organically. Like all these people I've worked with, getting to like work with like Bret Hart. Like I never ever thought I'd ever get to like say that I got to work for Bret Hart's wrestling company,
Crazy.
growing up as a kid. Like the guy was like an idol to me as a kid, like, still is, but
Yeah.
like that's just something that's shit coincidence here. Like, Alberta's a very small like province when you think about it, especially between the two cities. It's only a 3 hour drive. So we're not that far apart. And, you get to know somebody in one circle here, you start knowing people in a whole bunch of other circles. So I think that's what's really cool about living out here and just networking, constantly networking, man, because you don't know who that next person knows
Yeah.
that could help you.
Yeah,
They
totally.
might not be able to help you, but they might know someone who can.
Yeah.
And it's just always trying to have that respect when you meet people. That hey, like we're all human, and we're not better than anybody else, no matter what we do. So just try and be respectful because it could help you in the end someday.
Yeah, if somebody
Uh,
like really takes a liking to you and they know someone that could help you, they're going to go out of their way. I always said like acquaintances have always done more for me than most people I'm like super close with because
mhm.
there's that element of like trying to almost prove their connection, prove their networking abilities or whatever it
or
may be.
or their worth, or like it's not like that people are trying to attach themselves to like your work or your fame as you're
Hmm.
rising or anything. It's they see something in you that maybe your friends just don't because they only know one part of you, and
Yeah.
they're so inset on oh well he's always been like that. That's, of course he's
Yeah.
gonna be
Yeah.
successful.
Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
always knew he would. It's like, well, did you really know that, or like are you just saying that? Like, so
Yeah.
uh but I think acquaintances like do help a lot of people out a lot more than some friends do, and it's not because our friends can't or they won't. It's just that they can't.
Hmm.
So it's nice networking out there, and like most of my networking from everybody that I've ever gotten work from has been from face-to-face contact. It's not just like from DMing on Instagram. Like people kind of have lost that art of like
Yeah.
the
Just talking to
conversation of
people.
face to face. But yeah, like everything I ever got, like I can't even, Johnny, I can't even tell you the last time I had a resume. I think it's probably 20 years ago the last time I wrote out a
I
resume.
keep forgetting I have to go back and just like I'm like, "Oh, I better just keep this up to date just in case."
Like I have one, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I've never needed one. Like
That's great.
I've been hired on everything by either just
Just a
people
referral.
seeing my work
Yeah.
or a personal referral. And it's the thing that like a lot of people forget, like with the entertainment industry, everything's a personal referral. It's uh I always tell people, no matter what side, comedy, music, movies, whatever, 90% of what gets you in the door is who you know.
Mm.
The other 10% of what you know and what you do keeps you in the door. So, and it is like a networking like relationship type industry. It really is. And just people have lost that face to face genuine networking skill, I think. And I want to see that coming back now. And think it's starting to, now that I'm seeing a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily perform together are on the same show. And then they're like, hey, like
Yeah.
your your followers kind of follow my followers because you can look at your metrics now, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then now they're doing shows together, right? So like it is cool, but like they might not have had that if they didn't have a show together or they just didn't network together.
Yeah. But
So
then prove that they have something to offer, even that the other
mhm.
person be like, okay, yeah, we can definitely combine these efforts for sure.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people lacking out there, man. Like I see so many good comedians that aren't doing like their video work. They're not putting themselves out for social media to get those bookings. And it's like, guys, like you don't need to starve. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It doesn't need to be this
like
way
I
for
know a
sure.
lot of people, I know quite a few people making a decent career as a comedian in Canada, just from what they do with themselves by their personal networks and of course putting in the work on social networks, right? But
Yeah, yeah.
like there's a chance to be a full-time touring comedian in Canada and have a house, like pay a mortgage and have a car and all of that. It's just how bad do you want it and are you going to do the things to get it? But starting uh face to face, I think is the best thing we can all get back to, right? So
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more, man. I'm gonna shout out your Instagram here for people watching on YouTube. Thank you. It's only Gavin Ever on Instagram. Is there anything else or anywhere else you want people to go check out?
yeah, that's pretty much the main one there is just the Instagram. Yeah. A lot of like hot girls that I
Yeah.
know that have taken like booty shots of and stuff and other show related stuff and a couple dumb joke reels in there, I'm sure. So when it inspires me to post something, I usually will, but it's been a pretty busy summer for me this year, so
It's
I
good
haven't
to
had.
hear, man.
Well, I mean, it's not my shows I'm working on, but I'm working, so that's the
Yeah,
thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, but no, it'll be good to get back to a little slower pace and start working on my own stuff again. But no, I really appreciate you having me on here today, dude.
Yeah, man. That was fun. I'm glad you were able to make the time to come on and come back on anytime you want.
Oh, thank you, dude. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Hope you have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Johnny.
All right, later, man.
You've been listening to The Johnny Rogers Show. New episodes air every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.